I call to order the meeting of the Manassas Park Governing Body for April 15th, 2025. First up is approval of the agenda. City Attorney, do we have closed session tonight?
Yes, we do have one item under paragraph 5 of subsection 2.2-3711A.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Please join us for a moment of silence, and Councilmember Moreau, will you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we are up to public comment time. First up, Mr. Mike Smith. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Come up to the microphone, state your name and address for the record, and Ms. Connor will be keeping the time.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the governing body. Mike Smith, 102 Colfax. I won't need my whole 3 minutes this time. I'm going to keep it short. I just wanted to say thank you to all of the residents, city staff, and volunteers who came out to the most recent community trash cleanup event. We collected an estimated 30 pounds of trash in 2 hours, making our homes and community a cleaner place to live. We also had several students from the high school come out. It's good to see fresh meat coming out to get involved in the trash pickup. We do appreciate their service, and I printed out a few pictures for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Charles Grimes. Thank you, Mike.
I'm Charles Grimes. I live at 6836 General Longstreet's line, which is in Prince William County. I'm with the Greater Prince William Trails Coalition, and I want to thank you for what you're doing tonight with your MOU across 3 jurisdictions to plan for a trail that will make this a more walkable, bikeable community. We are, as a Trails Coalition, always trying to figure out how do we overcome the challenge of jurisdictional boundaries. You all are setting a great example of how you can partner up with sometimes difficult organizations to work with, and you're also making a great example for me to go back to Prince William County and brag about how you're doing it right. Thank you.
Thank you. Teresa Shalzo.
Hi, I'm Teresa Scalzo. I live at 9435 Linnae Lane in Manassas Park. And I'm just going to piggyback on what Charlie said. I think it's really cool that we're adding more trails and possibly bridges in the area, making it more walkable. I work as a recreation therapist, so I see the value of just people getting outside, being in nature, walking, has so many benefits for our community, and yeah, thank you for planning that.
Thank you. Mike Freeland.
Good evening, Mayor and governing body. My name is Mike Freeland. I'm at 9002 Peabody Street, Manassas. I am on the Parks and Recs Committee there, and I'm also a member of the Greater Prince William Trails Coalition. And just wanted to thank you all for the MOU. Hopefully you will approve that. You all are lucky enough to have Blooms Park Trail, which is much more than we have in Manassas. But I would hope that someday this small MOU that gets started here would turn into something that connects our 2 beautiful cities together. So thanks for that, and appreciate all you do.
Thank you. Is there anyone who's not signed up for a public comment but would still like to make a comment? Yes.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor, members of the governing body. I'm Alan Muchnick. I live in the city of Manassas as well, and I am the co-chair of Active Prince William. And I just wanted to echo the remarks we've made in support of the MOU for the Rail with Trail study. I think that's a great beginning, and that is actually would be a regional trail that could eventually go all the way to Alexandria along the Manassas VRE line. Got to give Fairfax County to do their part. They're not that much interested in the western part of the county. but it would be a great connection eventually between the two localities. Also, I wanted to comment briefly on the Mayfield Crossing project. I think as far as western Prince William County goes, that is probably the most transit-oriented property in the whole western part of the county. And so the density may be appropriate. However, and they're marketing it as a walkable community, a transit-oriented community that's within the walkshed of the VRE station and Park Central. However, from what I've seen of their plans, their proposed sidewalk frontage along Manassas Drive and along Signal View Drive is rather meager. 5-foot sidewalks, and I don't know what the landscaping and street lighting would be like, but they really need 10-foot sidewalks or a shared use path there. And the connection that they're making, they're proffering to connect to Signal View Park from their property over to Signal View Park is also deficient. They're proffering an 8-foot wide shared use path, and for 20, 30 years, the minimum standard is 10 feet. So they're saying, well, the path on the other side of the street's 8 foot, so we'll just copy it. But I think they really should be held to appropriate standards. I know you're not the decision makers here. It's the Board of Supervisors and the Planning Commission in the county. But thank you for the opportunity to comment.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to make public comment? Nope. All right. Moving on, we have our first presentation from Crime Solvers. Welcome, everyone. Try to come on up.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Cliff Blazes. I live in Prince William County, Manassas, Prince William County, but I lived in the city of Manassas for about 40 years, so I guess I'm part of it yet. I'd like to present tonight to you about what Crime Solvers is, and basically it's a program that the general public can report anonymously to the police department about crimes and things that have gone on in the community that need to be taken care of by the police department. Manassas City Police Department and the Manassas Crime Solvers offers an anonymous way for this to happen. We fight crime, and which works with the joint committees between the city's citizens, as well as the law enforcement, as well as the media. And I'll explain that a little bit further. A little bit of history, excuse me, a little history about Crime Solvers. Back in 1976 in New Mexico, a detective was trying to solve a crime, and he encouraged the community to help him out through local media and anonymous tip line. And that was in 1976, and it worked for him, and this program spread out throughout the country. And in 1978, the first Crime Solvers program came to Virginia in Fairfax County. Now, if you look, we have more than 50 programs throughout the state, and it's a very good program. If you look at that picture, I don't know how many of you can see it that clearly, but this is the picture of the governor signing some legislation into law down in Richmond, and the gentleman to the right is the former mayor of Manassas, Harry Parrish, former state representative, delegate. And if you look to the left, there's a guy named Chuck Cogan, which I think most of us know or knew. Chuck was a state senator, and both of them had a lot to do with getting the laws passed. And the gentleman between Chuck and the governor in the back is a gentleman by the name of Mark Wolverton. Mark is on our board. He's one of the founders, and he was a police officer in the city of Manassas, and he had a lot to do with Crime Solvers, and probably why I'm still here today on it. When it first started out, I became one of the founding members, and unfortunately, Mark and I are the only two founding members left. So we've got to get more people. Some of the legislation that the state has to cover Crime Solvers is the program itself. The program itself cannot be brought into court. No matter what they say, they cannot touch anybody that makes any claims, anybody that gives us any tips. There's no way that any of that can be brought into court, okay? Can't go back on anyone. The same thing with the members of the board, of which some are here tonight, and Yessie, who's not with us tonight, but she's a member also. None of us can be dragged into court for any reason, so that's important for us as individuals, as volunteers. So what does it do? It allows for people anonymously to go ahead and help the law enforcement, help them identify criminals in the area, help them to recover stolen property, take drugs off the street, open up cases that have perhaps gone cold, and finding local fugitives, and basically helping put people behind bars, criminals that we don't want in our community. We do this through the media. So what happens is a press release comes out from either the Manassas City or Manassas Park Police Department. And the press release is released, and on the bottom of it would be a little tipster line. And that's a Crime Solvers number and also the tipster's line. And we go ahead and put this out on our website and also on our Facebook pages in order to get it out to the community through the media. So how does it really work? Someone calls up and they speak to a anonymous phone call. That's the P3 tip line that we purchase. And that's a tip line that's all over the country. And it's an 800 number, or it goes into that 800 number. And they go ahead and talk to the tipster. And they get the information from them. And then they give the tipster a ID number, okay? So they're number 123. The tips are then forwarded to the law enforcement, whether it be the park or whether it be to the city, and they go ahead and pursue it. Hopefully they can get somewhere with it, and if they make an arrest, law enforcement informs our board. And then we know that that arrest has been made, and depending on what type of crime it was, there will be a reward given to tips number 123, okay? The reward can vary from anywhere from $100 to $1,000, again, depending on the nature of the crime that was committed. And of course, the cash rewards are paid in cash, and what we do is we set up a place for them to meet. We've had different places, banks, real estate offices, people that are on the board that can go ahead and give that. And they come in, they just say, I'm number 123, and we hand them an envelope, and they put down 123 on the envelope, and goodbye, here's your money, it's in cash. What we do not do, we are not a law enforcement agency. We have no authority to do anything close to that. We're not a crime prevention program, and we do not solve crimes. So the program, I was talking with your new city manager, and he comes from out in Seattle, and I think they call it Crime Stoppers out there. Well, it's got a number of different names: Crime Stoppers, Crime Solvers, Silent Witness, and it's actually worldwide. There's over 1,000 programs worldwide. And this little picture here shows one out in Scotland. So when you're out on vacation looking around, go past the police station, check it out, see if they have a sign up. Our logo was Sherlock Holmes. Everybody knows who Sherlock Holmes was, right? He was this fictionary detective who could always solve everything. So that became our little logo. And we all have pins like that. And on our shirts, you can see we have Sherlock. So the Manassas City Crime Solvers Board was established in 1987. Manassas Park was established after that also, and they also had one in the county. The county has since gone by the wayside, and Manassas Park back in 2012 joined up with the city of Manassas, and we became one board, the Manassas City, Manassas Park Crime Solvers Board. The board of directors is made up of volunteer citizens, and if anyone's interested, we're always looking for help, new members, and they should be living or working in the city of Manassas or Manassas Park. We're a 501c3 organization, and any donations that we get are totally tax deductible. And it operates entirely on contributions. We don't get any money from the cities, either city. It's totally donations from people in the community, from businesses, and that's how we raise our funds. The Board of Directors has responsibilities. We are supposed to administer the program and manage it to make sure it stays correct. We create the policies for the program, and we do a lot of publicity out in the community. We also are responsible for the fundraising. And of course, we determine who's going to get how much they're going to get for a payment, depending on the nature of the crime. You may have seen us at some of the events, the open houses that are downtown in both cities, in the park. We've had our tent set up, and we usually have somebody there giving out different types of brochures, telling people about Crime Solvers, and giving out little flashlights, little keychains or whatever, just to encourage them to have that number out there. We also, around town, we have signs that we had made up. They're about yay big, and they're like around the 7-Eleven or places where people hang out, promoting Crime Solvers, so that if somebody sees a crime, I remember that number, and they say, I can get money. So if I snitch on my buddy over here, I might get $500. And yeah, believe me, it happens. So how can you guys help? You can help us by advertising Crime Solvers, the tip line and the P3 line, okay? It's got to get out in the community. People have to know it's there. There are enough people out there that will snitch on something they see. The other thing we've run into quite frequently, somebody snitches on somebody, they get caught, and we ask them, they call up, yeah, you got caught. I don't want the money. Keep the money. So we've had a number of crimes that were solved, and the people refuse the money. They just put it back in your coffers. So we have a lot of that, which is good for us, but we're still happy that we can, make the bad guys get away. Our program is endorsed by both police departments, Manassas City and Manassas Park, and we have a MOU with both of the chiefs. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, we are a 501c3, and contributions are greatly accepted. Okay, not you guys. Although if you have a business, you can make it. But the city of Manassas Park or the city of Manassas can't donate to us. But anyone else in the community, if you own a business, we can give you a little sticker to put in your window, and that's very important. The other thing, the way we advertise, you may have noticed your police cars driving around have our logo and a sticker on the back of them. And this is important too, that people in the community see that. And we're trying to get it on other vehicles besides just the police department, on your Department of Works and things like that. So that's something maybe you can push. Questions?
Thank you so much for coming out. It's a very wonderful service that you provide for the community. We'll start down here with Councilmember Cyberlin. Questions, comments?
Just thank you.
I don't have any questions. Thank you. Thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your presentation. It's also really wonderful to see Councilmember Ralph Smith in our audience from Manassas.
Yeah.
Appreciate his service and to our community. Thank you to Crime Stoppers. That's all.
Yep, thank you for the presentation. Appreciate all the work you guys do. Yeah, no question, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, we have Yessie and Ralph, so we have one from each place. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And, Pat has little baggies for you with some of the handouts that we go and give out at the different presentations when there's a public
Thank you, Peter.
Yeah,
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, next we have a proclamation for 2025 Frontline Workers Appreciation Month, which will be in May. Whereas frontline workers are the builders of our community, exercising curiosity, compassion, courage, and creativity to provide essential services that ensure the safety, health, and education of our residents. Whereas over 9 million healthcare workers across the United States serve in hospitals, clinics, and long-term care facilities, often placing themselves at risk to provide life-saving care. And whereas firefighters responded to an estimated 36 million emergency calls each year, over 800,000 sworn law enforcement officers nationwide work tirelessly to uphold the law and ensure public safety, and emergency medical services personnel respond to more than 240 million calls annually. And whereas teachers dedicate their careers to shaping the future of our communities, with over 3.7 million educators in the U.S. providing knowledge and guidance to our youth. And whereas frontline workers embody the essence of builders, flexible thinkers, and constructive problem solvers who respect the dignity of all people by dedicating themselves to overcoming challenges and uniting communities. Now, therefore, I, Alana Mensing, Mayor of the City of Manassas Park, Virginia, do hereby proclaim the month of May as Frontline Worker Appreciation Month in the City of Manassas Park, and encourage all residents to join in recognizing and honoring the heroic contributions of our healthcare workers, firefighters, law enforcement officers, EMS personnel, and teachers. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Is there anyone here from frontline workers today? Nope. All right, we will be mailing their proclamation. Next up is the Mayfield Crossing update. Hi, Mickey.
Good evening. I just wanted to provide a brief introduction. For the record, my name is Michelle Berry, Planning and Zoning Administrator. The presentation that you will be viewing tonight is for a rezoning in Prince William County. The city does have interest in it because it abuts our boundary line, and the property does front on Manassas Drive. As an adjacent jurisdiction, we do get the plan submissions, and they've had 2 submissions so far, so we have provide staff comments on both of the submissions. In the comment about the shared use path, I can tell you that we did make that as a staff comment in the most recent, the second submission. I'm not going to take up too much time, but we have here Noah Klein, a land use attorney with Venable, and we also have Aaron Budilov, who is with D.R. Horton, the developer of the project. So I'm just going to bring up the presentation and hand it over to Noah.
Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the governing body. My name is Noah Klein, the land use attorney with Venable. With me tonight is Aaron Budilov from the applicant D.R. Horton. We are very happy to be here tonight to talk to you about Mayfield Crossing. As Ms. Barry pointed out, we are currently in our second submission with Prince William County. We originally submitted the application back in early 2024. And we came back with our second submission just a couple months ago. There was a gap between the first submission and the second submission, and a lot of that was due to some changes that we wanted to make to the application based on comments that we heard in the first submission, including comments that we received from Manassas Park. So when we were putting together the second submission, we engaged with Manassas Park, with Ms. Barry, with Mr. Odell. Their comments have been really helpful to us, and we are currently in the stage of having our second submission reviewed. We have a post-submission meeting coming up, so the project is still evolving, but there are some general points that we feel are going to be remain throughout the process. So with that, I'll start. So to give an idea of the area context, as you can see, Mayfield Crossing property, it's about 20 acres. It's right at the junction of Manassas Drive and Signal View Drive. It is essentially an island surrounded by Manassas Park. The Mayfield Crossing property was part of an older industrial zoning base. If you look around Mayfield Crossing to the north, across from the park property, you'll see the Richmond Station and Walker Station developments. Those two form part of the former industrial and office band around this property. Both Richmond Station and Walker Station were the subjects of a comp plan amendments and rezonings to shift away from that industrial base. And so that's how the area around us has evolved. We are continuing that trend. This property, as you'll see, was replanned as part of the Prince William County 2040 plan. We are proposing development consistent with the plan. But this will give you an idea of the area context. And one thing additionally I'll point out is that Signal View Drive essentially acts as kind of a boundary line between the established cluster residential development like you see at Roseberry, and then when you go north of that or west of that, closer to the railroad, closer to downtown, it's really more suitable for a multifamily, single-family attached context, which is what guided the Richmond Station and Walker Station applications. We're continuing with that trend, and that is what Prince William decided when they replanned the area with the 2040 plan. So this presents a area context. We do have the development. That's not its final form. I will point that out. It's just to give a sense of the massing and the context within the area. You can see there are some area amenities around. I have another slide that points it out with some specificity, but just gives you an idea of how the project, if approved, will sit within the area, and we provide those two different perspectives. So we heard earlier from a speaker about the walk shed. This gives you sort of the concentric circles that detail sort of the area, what's in the area, what makes this a very well-suited property for residential development, aside from the comp plan. We are close to the VRE station, within a 15-minute walk, and I have an additional slide about that. But we're also close to shopping. We are close to the downtown Manassas Park area, to the area that's redeveloping just outside of where we are. We are close to the Liberia Avenue commercial corridor. There's commercial across the street, further down Signal View Drive. And you can see within the walk shed that we're within, at most, 20 minutes from one of the area tie-ins to the development. That would be Parkside Middle School. But that's really the furthest away. Everything else is within that 20-minute walking area. So I mentioned before about transit. You heard it earlier as well. This property sits just within the high-capacity transit station area. As you know, VRE recently made a pretty significant investment with the acquisition of the Manassas line. VRE also has the 2050 plan that is looking to make train service more robust. And in terms of why this property is very well situated and really uniquely situated in all of the county, it is the only property within the county that has that proximity to VRE, at least the only one that's currently unplanned for or undeveloped for residential. Once you get further past Manassas Park VRE, you have Manassas VRE, which is really all controlled by the city of Manassas, and then beyond that is Broad Run, which is industrial. So this really is a very uniquely positioned property to have a development of a particular density. We're just inside the circle of the 15-minute walking shed of the VRE. The COG has recommended that within the housing goals that need to be met between 2030, by 2030, 75% of that development should be at or near one of these high-capacity transit areas. So it is smart development on that score. So in terms of its position with respect to what's happening around it, or what happened around it with the residential growth, we're consistent with that. And it's also the kind of development that you really want to encourage to fulfill those goals that VRE has set for itself. So I talked about the comp plan. It is planned for residential neighborhood with a transect of T3, and what that transect means is it's a density figure, and that means that the recommended density is between 4 and 12 units per acre. The existing zoning is M2. As I mentioned, this is part of a former industrial band. Clearly, no one's really looking to see a distribution center here. Our residential development is certainly consistent with the comprehensive plan. The zoning district that we're proposing is PMR, which is Plan Mixed Residential. And just a little insight there, the Plan Mixed Residential zoning district really enables you to offer a variety of products and also to have some flexibility with certain development standards. So it's become a very popular zoning district in the county for that reason. But clearly, the PMR zoning district, the residential development we're proposing is certainly more consistent with the comprehensive plan than the existing M2 light industrial zoning. So we wanted to show you the changes that went into the project from the first submission to the second submission. Our first submission proposed a total of 288 units, and that was a mix of townhomes and multifamily, and specifically they were triplex units. The density proposed there was 14 units per acre, which was a little higher than recommended density in the plan, but that is allowed for in Prince William County when you're proposing affordable dwelling units. And so we were proposing 10% affordable dwelling units with the initial submission, and so that's where you see sort of the higher density. The initial submission, the impetus behind that was, as I described previously, that you are near that transit node. And so it's an opportunity to provide that ridership and also to have a base for commercial growth. Not just for Prince William on the Liberia Avenue commercial corridor, but also downtown Manassas Park. The comments that we received in the first submission, we did receive some comments from Manassas Park, and we'll touch upon those in a second. But one of the comments we received, and this is a common refrain in the county, is density. It's a little too dense, though we do meet the letter of the laws, so to speak, with respect to the comprehensive plan. Density is always a tricky issue, and it's a tough issue to balance, particularly where you have a property that is very well situated for a higher density development. Certainly the comp plan supports it, and the area characteristics support it, but there is always a sense with the county that you need to cut back. So that was really one of the driving factors that went into the internal discussions that happened with the applicant as far as being responsive to that, but also putting forth a project that can withstand a certain density, but also be sensitive to those needs of what are the externalities of your development if you're bringing 288 units. So when we came back with the second submission, we wanted to look at density, and we wanted it to be a reduction that was not cosmetic, but something that was responsive to the concerns we heard. So with the second submission, we have a 37.5% reduction in the density. And so with 200, we went from 288 units to now 180 units. We achieved that by rendering the development all townhomes. We did remove the multifamily portion. We are still keeping the 10% affordable housing figure. We and also made additional changes beyond the density. As you can see from the first submission, everything is centralized around the central amenity space, which we believe to be important. While it is situated where we are adjacent to the park, we also want to create our own self-contained community so that folks have options on site for amenities and not necessarily feeling that they need to walk to the park, though we certainly, of course, welcome that. With the second submission, we we not only reduced the density, but we increased the size of that centralized amenity space. And I have a slide that goes into that with a little more detail. So we increased the amount of amenity area for that centralized park space. We added a tree save area along Signal View Drive, which echoes what you would see across the street with the Roseberry development. So we have a 30-foot tree save area, and you can see we removed some units along the south side of Manassas Drive, Signal View Drive, closer to the park, and added tree save area there as well. We also, from a transportation standpoint, we did have we were originally proposing a full access off of Manassas Drive. We did get some comments there, so that is being converted into right in, right out on Manassas Drive, so no left turns out of there. We also are undergrounding utilities both along Manassas Drive and Signal View Drive. With respect to the Manassas Drive frontage, we think about development in terms of symmetry. So we thought we wanted to achieve that with the tree save area along Signal View Drive and along Manassas Drive. We wanted to have that symmetry with Belmont across the street. So we have our rear loaded units along Manassas Drive. So what you're seeing is essentially the front of the units of the townhomes as you drive along Manassas Drive. And in addition, and this was a comment that we received from Manassas Park, we want to be additionally sensitive to some of the streetscape elements that the Manassas Park has in its plan. So we worked with the city to add street lighting. So the street lighting that you see across the street will be echoed on our side of the street on Manassas Drive. So it's a combination of, again, undergrounding the utilities and adding the streetscape lighting. And there are a couple other additions, but I do have a subsequent slide, so I will save a little surprise for later. So this is just a closer view of the plan. As I mentioned, these are all townhome units. There is a mix of rear-loaded and front-loaded units, with the rear-load units really being located along Manassas Drive. So again, there's that symmetry across the street. We do have 6.17 acres of open space. What that translates to as percentage is about 39% open space, and the recommendation or the provision is 30%, so we're exceeding that. So here are the potential product types. Again, these are townhome units. They're a mix of two-car and single-car garages with a design mix of brick and lap siding. You see there's some articulation along the facade with the roof line broken up. And this was with our second submission. We're very happy with the design, and again, we see this as something that we are going to continue to move forward with in addition to the density. Here is another integrated rendering. We saw those earlier examples, so I won't dwell on it too much, but wanted to show a perspective of the project as it sits at this corner. And you can see some of the tree coverage that's there that will be there, at post build out. So to talk about the open space, as I mentioned, we have that centralized, what we call the Fieldscape Common, and it's over 1 acre. We have a playground, we have a delightful dog park, and again, we want to create not just 180 townhomes, but a townhome community, and one that is not reliant necessarily upon external features. It is wonderful that we are adjacent to the park, to the water park, and there are other certainly parks nearby, but we wanted to provide something a little more robust than what you might see with townhome developments. And if you look, really you take scope of some of the nearby development, some of the newer development in the county, you'd be hard pressed to find a development that does have this level of amenity centralized that offers what we are offering. So this is the Fieldscape Common. It is sort of divided into sort of two different levels. You have the more active level to the south, and you can see some of the features that we are proposing on this slide. We have foosball tables, a pavilion for a centralized gathering space. And so you see a lot of activity to the southern half of the fieldscape common. To the northern half, it's a little more contemplative. You have an open area with native meadow and vegetation for something a little more passive with the active area to the south. So here is a glimpse at the off-site improvements, and I believe most, if not all, of these comments came from the comments that we received from staff at Manassas Park. I did mention we are undergrounding utilities along Manassas Drive and Signal View Drive. We have a trail connection that we're proposing within the development to the trail in Signal Hill Park. But importantly, one of the comments that we received after the first submission asked us to look at a potential trail connection to the entrance of the park. And when we looked at it, we noted that it would be somewhere along the lines of a 700-foot sort of trail connection. And when we met with staff, it became very apparent that there was a real issue just having one trail or one opportunity for folks who are on foot or on bike in the park to exit and maybe find their way to points north and west. There is currently a sort of pedestrian traffic facility at the entrance of Signal Hill Park. You have to cross over Signal View Drive to go across the street to walk and to utilize the sidewalk. So there's definitely a need to have that connection on the side of the street. And so with our second submission, we're proposing just that. We're proposing to essentially mimic the trail that's on the other side and to build that connection, assuming we get the requisite approvals, to build the connection for that entrance to Signal Hill Park. And what that's going to mean is if you're exiting the park, you no longer have to cross the street. You can head up, you can take a left, and you can go up the trail to connect to our sidewalk along Signal View Drive. And to make your way, potentially, you can connect to the trail already within the park, or you can head up Manassas Drive if you're heading towards downtown. So we're very happy to offer that as part of the project. And again, that was really the result of the comments that we received from the city, that we wanted to again ensure that we are doing what we can to not only be good neighbors, but also to have a project that really fits within the context of where we're located, and that's really enveloped by Manassas Park. So this slide shows a little of gives you a scope of the pedestrian connectivity. With that trail connection proposed trail connection from the project, you now can connect to the park and point south. You can see the trail connection from the interior of the park, which can connect up to the existing trails along Richmond Station and Walker Station, and then eventually you can make your way to VRE and to downtown. So one of the issues with the development that we want to raise tonight that will be the subject of a future, more defined request is there is an existing water line along Signal View Drive. It's a 12-inch line that, as we discovered during project review, is not sufficient for fire suppression purposes. So what that means is that we ultimately will need to connect to the existing Prince William water line there's a line that's in Richmond Station. And that would mean, and this would be a future request, would be an easement connection through and really along the existing sanitary sewer line that's right within the trail alignment in Signal Hill Park. That would connect us to the line that we need for the proper fire suppression purposes. And with that existing easement area, if you've ever walked along the trail, I'm sure most, if not all of you have, in the park, you can see there's clearing there, and it's dotted with the manhole covers that will service that sewer line. This proposed easement would be right within, and with some area just slightly outside, but within that area, that cleared area of the park. And so that is something that we would like to raise as part of our presentation. And I'll point out lastly that we're on our second submission. We don't have a planning commission or a board date just yet. We are still meeting with the county to work through some design comments. So we're not at the stage where we have a proposed public hearing date with the county, but we certainly know that we will be back before you to give you an update on where things stand and to really, I suppose, more formalize this request. But it's something that we did want to raise as part of the presentation. And
I want to add just one thing
Please.
on that last slide. The reason for the water line request, there's an existing 30-foot sanitary sewer line. We intend to jump into that line. We've talked with Prince William Water Authority as well, and Sewer Authority, and they've agreed to it verbally. Unfortunately, water lines have different bends than sewer lines can take, so there is going to be a few areas throughout the existing 30-foot easement where the water line can't make a hard right or left, and so we'll need a few feet, here and there. But we're not asking in any case it's less than 10 feet. I mean, I think it is 2 to 5 in areas that we need. So it's really jumping in the existing sanitary sewer so that we can connect to Prince William County water line because we are, as we said in the beginning, a hole in the donut, surrounded by the city of Manassas Park, and our public water and sanitary sewer has to connect to Prince William.
so thank you. Thank you. We appreciate you all listening to our presentation. We are certainly happy to answer any questions that you have at this stage.
Well, thank you so much for coming out and presenting to us. We appreciate that collaboration, and I'm excited to see the sidewalk connection on the lower side of Signal Hill. I guess my only remaining concern is just this is going to be a load on our traffic on our roads. It's also going to be a load for our emergency services as they're closer than the others. So I look forward to continuing that discussion with you guys as we move further down the road.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Start with Councilmember Javed. Any questions, comments?
Yeah, thank you for taking the time to speak with us. I know we can't make too much decisions, but keeping that good neighbor mentality on the Manassas Drive side, what was the philosophy behind not doing any tree saving on that side?
Really, it was more a function of undergrounding the utilities.
Mm-hmm.
Undergrounding the utilities there with some of the topographical issues necessitates the clearing there. And it also, notwithstanding the clearing, there will be some vegetation with our buffer area, but it'll be similar to what you see across the street along at Belmont.
Right. So across the street, what the developers did was they had the front door entrance facing the road, right?
Yes,
give it a nice appeal.
Right.
In this case, we're going to see the rear of the
No, it's the rear load units.
Okay.
So that means that you will see the front
Of the
of the
building.
units
Okay.
as they face Manassas Drive, but instead of the garage being right by the front door, it's, yeah.
And then my second thing was on Manassas Drive, I see it on the Signal Hill point, but is there a dedicated right turning lane into the development?
On Signal,
On Manassas Drive side?
on Manassas Drive, I think we have, with a right in, right out, I don't believe that we have it necessitates a turn lane and taper. But that's, again, something that we're going to be talking to transportation when we meet up with them. And if there's an update there, when we come back to you, we'll show that.
Okay. And that's all I have. Thank you.
On the Signal View Drive egress, are there plans to put a traffic light there with the traffic that flows in and out of Roseberry Plus?
So we have a traffic study that that is being reviewed by the county, and we're going to be meeting with them to discuss what options would exist there. A signal is something that might be a little difficult given the proximity to the Manassas Drive and Signal View Drive intersection because there are spacing requirements from VDOT for that. But the ultimate mitigation there is something that is still ongoing. It's still under
Okay, and
discussion.
just as an anecdotal point, just driving through there, I know that during rush hour, back and forth, it gets difficult for the folks who live in Roseberry, not that I live there, to get in and out, during those high volume times. So I can see, folks living in Mayfield going out that way. That might just add to the problems in that area.
One of the things we're doing is we plan to meet with the community, Roseberry community, knowing that this will affect them, given their proximity to our project. And we are working with VDOT and transportation to study this further, right, to make sure that we can mitigate the impact appropriately.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Klein, for coming here and your partner here today to share with us the information on Mayfield Crossing. We just appreciate your willingness to come before the governing body. I'm really excited about the affordable housing, the 10% that's going to be offered. Who's going to be eligible to apply? Is it just Prince William County residents, or how is that going to work?
It's not, so the ADUs are not limited just to, well, if you're moving in there, you're going to be, you'll become a Prince William County, right.
That's correct.
But in terms of original applicants, it's not limited to the county. And so the way the affordable dwelling unit proffers are structured, so 10%, 18 units, half of those units are available to folks earning up to 80% AMI. Those are what the county refers to as sort of the true ADU, affordable dwelling units. And then there's a tier that's workforce dwelling, which are homes that would be available to folks earning up to 120% of AMI. And so the sales price is the way it works is that the sales price of those units, rough calculation, are three times the what the AMI percentage is. So in other words, so someone who earns 120% of the AMI, their housing cost shouldn't exceed 30%. Right.
Okay. And so what's the breakout of the 80% AMI and then 120% of the 18?
So up to 80% of AMI or half of those units.
Okay. Half.
Right. And then
Gotcha.
the other
9 and
half.
9.
Right.
Gotcha. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Sure.
Thank you for the presentation. The question I have, and I appreciate you undergrounding utilities on you're doing the entire perimeter, correct, of the project?
Correct.
The question I have about the utility undergrounding across, so on the corner, there's a pole that has a cable that goes, or a power line that goes across the street into Bloom's Crossing. Are you gonna leave that pole existing at the corner there, or are you gonna underground across the street there and leave it at that pole?
I think that's a great question. I think a further, engineering.
And I know
study
you're
needs
still
to be
revising.
done.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're very preliminary at this point in time. We will have to figure that out. The initial undergrounding activities were supposed to be focused on our site, so Manassas and Signal Hill. Going across Manassas Drive, given how big of a thoroughfare it is and a major arterial road, kind of changes a lot of things, and also what we'll be allowed to do with VDOT, so it's just something we need to explore.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you for the presentation, very informative. I just want to echo the comments about from the citizens about the width of the sidewalks of the paths, and also the traffic concern that Councilmember Moreau brought up on Signal View coming in and out.
Thanks again for coming out tonight. We really
Sure.
appreciate it.
Thank you for having us. We appreciate it.
Have a good night. All right, next up is consent agenda. It includes the approval of the minutes from March 29th, April 1st, and April 8th, 2025. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Unfinished business. We have the ordinance to increase the city manager's spending authority as introduced by Councilmember Carrera.
Yes, this is just a follow-up to what was discussed a couple times in the last meetings to look at moving our spending authority to go to 200,000. Right now it's at 100,000.
Do you have anything to add, city manager?
The only thing I'd add is just to make sure you all saw the correction to the language on the agenda bill that Dean sent out earlier today, but otherwise, the ordinance is correct, and it does align with what Dean sent you, so we talked about it at the retreat in March, and it seemed like there was consensus to proceed, so that's why it's before you tonight.
And this will be effective July 1st. I'm sorry.
Effective July 1st.
Yeah,
Yep.
sure, so.
Okay, so I'll put forth the motion.
Wait, some questions.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, yeah, I didn't see in this draft here, it seems to have changed from the last draft that we've gotten, Mr. Carrera, where the things that we had discussed about sole source contracts is not explicitly stated in this draft, and it was in the original that we had seen. And I think that's a piece that's truly missing that needs to be in here. Even though our contracting policy may say that that won't happen, I think it's important for our community to know
Correct.
that sole source contracts won't be signed by our city manager
Correct. That was
without
my
coming to us.
And that was my understanding. City attorney?
Yeah, it's in there. If you look on, it's item number 12 in the red line that's online. So if you look at that, I'm trying to figure out what page that is. It's page 54 of the packet. The very last one, 12.
Got it. Okay.
Talks about sole source contracts.
Skipped over that one. Okay, fantastic. I'm good. Thank you, Dean.
Any other questions, clarification?
You're welcome.
Okay. All right, there are two motions. The first one is that the governing body approve an ordinance to authorize the city manager to approve and sign contracts for amounts not greater than $200,000 without further approval of the governing body by amending City Code 2.80 as presented and subject to final city attorney review.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? That motion carries. And the second motion is that the governing body rescind Resolution 23-1000-2197.
So moved.
Do I have a second? So this is to rescind the previous resolution that capped it at 100,000, is that correct, Dean?
Yeah, so previously we had two pieces. We had the purchase order and change order stuff in the city code, and by resolution, the governing body had authorized the city manager to sign contracts and approve contracts. You asked me to consolidate everything so it's in one place in the city code, so that resolution that previously had been adopted is no longer effective and actually would counter what you guys would have just approved, because it's limited to 100,000 for his authority. So that's why we have to rescind it.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Congratulations, Michael.
Thank
It
you.
only took a year.
No.
All right. MOU with Prince William County and Manassas City Rail with Trail Study. Hi, Calvin.
Good evening, Mayor Mensing, Vice Mayor Moore, members of council, residents, staff, and guests. I'm Calvin Odell, the Director of Community Development. Here to talk about the Rail with Trail Phase 1 study. I wanted to thank everybody that showed up tonight to speak. I'm not used to having hype men. I feel like we could have planned this agenda better and I could have come up here with some fanfare. But thank you very much for showing up. I'm glad that there's so much interest in this. If you'll remember, on June 4th, 2024, the governing body for the city of Manassas Park passed a resolution supporting a VDOT ATIP application for $400,000 for this Rail with Trail project. That would have left Manassas Park responsible for $50,000 and Manassas responsible for $50,000. The grant application to ATIP was denied, but the group heading this up is still interested in pursuing this study. And as you can tell from our guests tonight, there is a lot of interest in the community. So this would continue a preliminary study of the 3-mile trail along the tracks from Old Town to Bull Run. This project is in the NVTA Long Range Plan and also in the MWCOG Visualized 2045 Plan. So we feel pretty good that a study will lead us into a grant application to NVTA that should garner funding for the project. So What we're proposing here is a memorandum of understanding to utilize Kimley Horn, Manassas' on-call engineer, to conduct this preliminary study. The Kimley Horn has come in at a price of $268,600. Manassas Park would be responsible for $90,000 of that. As I mentioned earlier, Manassas Park already had budgeted in the FY25 budget $50,000 for this purpose. We are recommending that the additional $40,000 we would be responsible for this study come from our additional streets line. And aside from that, that line does have $202,000 in it, and there is another item tonight that would use a little of that, but we would still have plenty of funds available in that line. And the MOU is the vehicle we would use to, handle the funding mechanism and to make sure that our voice is heard in this project. So staff recommendation is that the governing body authorize the city manager to sign this MOU so we can get this study underway.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? Starting down here. No.
Yes.
Yes.
Calvin, thank you for the report. It is exciting, this Rail to Trails. The thing that concerns me, and it's unfortunate we didn't get the grant, that's too bad, and hopefully we'll reapply. I hope you have that option. Or is it done? Is it done?
Well, I mean, we can always apply it, but we feel really comfortable after we got this in MBTA's long-range plan and the MWCOG Visualize 24 that an application to MBTA would garner funding. So we just want to be at that, not quite shovel-ready, but at that next phase that, gives the regional commission confidence that this is a regionally significant project. It's not just a shot in the dark, So
the concern I have is the $40,000 that's coming from our streets maintenance fund. I'm assuming, because we have on our agenda tonight, the street pavement schedule.
Right.
So there's 40,000 streets that we won't be able to pave. Is that my understanding?
So we carry two different capital lines that have historically been used in some way or another to accomplish paving. The way that we usually look at it is that the street improvements and resealing line is our primary source of street resurfacing every year. The additional streets line, the one that we're talking about in this agenda item, is usually used for concrete, things like sidewalk repair, if there's any sort of curb and gutter damage. But we have, you're right, in the past, we have used additional streets and the leftovers from additional streets to achieve more paving. So I would say that it's not wrong. It's not right. There's no really specified purpose for the additional streets lines except to help us cover additional streets projects.
Right.
So,
and so, while I'm very supportive of this project, I would rather us pull that money from our reserve account and not cut into our streets budget. I mean, I get probably more emails about potholes and streets not being in great condition in Manassas Park. And then vote on cutting that budget for something I totally support. I just think the $40,000 should come somewhere else than our streets budget. And hopefully, like I said, and maybe the city manager could opine on this, we can pull it from the reserves.
I don't know. I'd have to look.
Okay, then maybe we bring this back. I support the project. I just don't think $40,000 should be taken out of our streets budgets because we have so many needs in our city. We don't pave as much as we should.
I will say that our initial hope was that the timing of this study may have carried us into FY26 so that we would have been able to simply use the same line item, but ask for this $40,000 additional funds in FY26. But I think the pace that Kimley Horn is looking to keep with this study, we're going to need this money available in FY25. So we really, we probably, had we known this, we could have come back with a recommendation that this $40,000 come, with the budget amendment that's before you tonight.
Right.
It's just that, one way or another, the additional streets line supporting this project or changing this capital line to require 40,000 more additional dollars, it's all supplemented by the general fund. Neither one of these lines has, another source unless we're using NVTA 30 local funds to support it. So,
well, given the fact that we meet next Tuesday, hopefully that would give the city manager opportunity and time to maybe revise. Maybe we pull the amendment. I don't think it has to be voted on tonight, and that we look at that and full with the Second Amendment. I believe it's our Second Amendment. Again, I just think, I'm not sure what my colleagues on this dais feel, but just cutting money from our streets budget, to me, is not the wise thing to do at this time.
So we're not comfortable using MVTA local funds towards this project either, an additional 40,000?
Don't we have it in reserve? I know Mr. Manager, you know Keith. Don't we have it in the reserves? I agree with what you're saying, Vice Mayor, so. Assistance, don't we have it? 40,000 in our reserves?
I mean, we do have reserve balance.
How much is that amount for the public?
Like 18, 17?
We're still waiting on the final numbers. Obviously, fund balance, you have to get the final numbers to know, but that what you get, we'll probably say we're at 17 million.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
I would be a little hesitant to use our fund balance since we've taken so long to build it up and we have no idea what's upcoming in the next.
Yeah, just a reminder, and I want to speak with Mr. Coach, but the 50% of operating revenue is around 15 million. So we're very close to that 15%. That's a best.
Well, again, it doesn't have to come from reserves. I mean, our city manager can sharpen the pencil and find cuts in other places in our budget. I just don't think we should be pulling money out of our street maintenance budget, because that is one of the major issues that we hear from our residents about, is the conditions of our streets and roads.
If I may, so I think, like Calvin said, both of these funds are funded by the general fund, so I think what you're saying is you would like to see an emphasis on paving going forward. So why don't we pay for this tonight as indicated, and then we move money out of reserves into a future paving project, or do it vice versa? To me, it's about what you're trying to achieve, not how we pay for it. So, so if that's what your wish is to, you know, I don't know how many paving projects we can do for an extra $40,000, but we can definitely explore that, and then we can then refresh the streets with whatever's needed to do the additional paving.
That would work.
I'd be looking for Calvin to nod his head down and say, yes, that makes sense. Okay.
That's, you know, staff's certainly happy, I think, you know, we originally were hoping, again, that this project could carry over to the next fiscal year. We could just bring you this with the FY26 budget presentation as an additional $40,000 onto this project in FY26. But the pace of the design is going to be faster than that. We needed to have all of this money available in FY25. So, you know, we were recommending money that was there, something that we could grab that's for transportation purposes. Clearly, you know, we can bring this item back. We can find another way to fund it. We can recommend a different model in a presentation to the body.
The city manager is suggesting that we go ahead and fund it tonight, which I'm fine with, just so long as we put the money back, however the city does it, into the street maintenance budget.
Much of our spending, you know, I always tell my staff, I call them our earmarks and our narratives, the way that, you know, the way we break line items down with our intent to spend them. You know, the same thing here. When we're modeling the FY26, FY27 paving budget, we'll be, instead of pulling purely from VDOT urban monies that come into the general fund and then get transferred into capital for paving, and NVTA money, local fund money that gets shifted over into the CIP, you know, into the capital improvements fund for street paving. We'll make sure that some of that money is general fund money that's, you know, would essentially be attached to the reserve.
Councilmember Morrow, and then Javed, any comments or questions?
No questions. I have an understanding. I mean, my view is that I don't think we get, I mean, I'm okay with voting on this as it is written.
Okay.
Tonight, if other people feel the same. Kelly, if you correct me if I'm wrong, but don't we have a separate line item for street maintenance and then street projects, which is two different things, right?
So we have a street improvements and resealing line.
Right.
That street improvements and resealing line this year was 435 or
close to 5, I think.
Yeah. The additional streets line is not necessarily described as accomplishing paving. Some years we've used it to do concrete repair work, sidewalk work. Sometimes that money has wound up supplementing capital improvement projects that went over, projects such as Connor Drive, Upper Kent, things like that, where projects ran over budget and we needed a source of additional money. The description of that project, or of that specific line, is not clear. It's additional streets projects, wherever the money may be needed in that fiscal year to achieve the transportation goals that we had, the streets goals that we had. But, have we used it for resurfacing? Yeah, certainly. We have many years, we've said, okay, well, we could do 4 street segments for what we have left. But if we use this additional streets money, we can do that 5th segment. It'll cover that, and we do that. So
either way, I'm just saying that we have a separate line for street maintenance, street paving. This was a separate line for street projects for additional project that we want to improve, make improvements throughout the city. So we borrow from the improvement line for the street maintenance sometimes to do paving whatsoever. So we're not borrowing from the street maintenance to do this project. It's vice versa, basically. You understand what I'm saying? So we're not cutting into the maintenance line.
Well, we are. We were funding a consultant to do a study, as opposed to 40,000 that would give us concrete work done in our city. While I support the consultant doing the trails project, but don't say that we're not cutting work that could be done in the streets of our city.
Well, I guess we'll see. I guess you can debate back and forth which way, how you want to see it, but that's fine. My other understanding, I guess, another question is that the 100,000 that's, is this, the 100,000 is split between the city and the Manassas, is the total or each 100,000?
Oh, that was with the original submission, the original ATIP submission, the VDOT ATIP grant application. Manassas was going to pay 50, Manassas Park was going to pay 50. At this point, this is an MOU between the city of Manassas and Manassas Park to fund this study.
So outside the 100,000?
Yes.
Okay, so that's where this 90,000 is coming from.
Yeah, the 100,000 kind of fell apart. It's no longer relevant after the ATIP grant application was denied. If we go back for another ATIP application for this project, those numbers may change. But this study would advance that project, so the application would be different anyways. It will be at a different phase of the project. Will be beyond preliminary design.
So is Manassas still contributing 50? Is Manassas still giving the 50?
No.
Everybody's doing that.
Yeah, it's 90.
So everybody's doing 90, so
Yes.
the total is 180.
No,
it's
the
260.
total to Kimley Horn is $268,600.
Well, I see that part, the 268. I'm just trying to understand the 50 and the 40, the 90,000 that we're contributing, and then Manassas is contributing 90,000 towards a study, for a phase 1 study.
Yes.
So the total phase 1 study cost is about 200. And
No,
some
the
change.
total phase 1
And some
study is
change.
$268,000.
So where's the remaining balance coming from?
Prince William County.
Okay, so it's three of them involved here. Because it just says split between the city and Manassas, that's why I was confused. If there's, county was involved or not. Okay.
Okay. Are there any other comments or questions?
So how much is the county paying again? Can you just tell me real quick?
I don't have the MO, I'm sorry, I just have notes up here.
The county's paying 88, and the city, both cities are paying 90 each. What's the justification on that split?
We had discussed this before, the Lions.
We need to know.
Well, the city manager will do it. We shouldn't have to figure out how. He just says he'll do it.
Okay. All right, well, the staff recommendation is that the governing body approve and authorize the city manager to sign a memorandum of understanding for the purposes of the VRE Manassas Line Rail with Trail Phase 1 study, and authorize the city manager to execute the document as presented and subject to final city attorney review.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thank you, Calvin. Next up is an ordinance FY25 A2 budget amendment for the city and schools budget.
Okay, thank you, Mayor, governing body. So this is a routine budget amendment, number 2 for the year. And incorporates a couple of different things for us and for the schools. I'm up, oh, I'm not up yet. There I am, okay. So as you can look in your packet, this chart lays out where the changes are. The biggest impact is the carryover of a project in IT that was not completed in the previous budget year and got carried over. That was over $300,000 of the entire the total amount for the city side. The school received some revenues from the state that were unanticipated, and so did Randy at DSS. And so, you know, that's basically what this is. Nothing earth-shattering here, but it does change the total budget, as you see at the bottom, up almost, I guess, just over $600,000 for us, and the school was, yeah, I think that's on the next slide. Okay, there are the details. The school is that one, 563. So again, pretty routine. I do have the spreadsheet to go over these if you want to see them in spreadsheet form, but this is the summary of it in words. So
Great.
if you have any questions, let me know.
Questions? Start with Councilmember Javad.
The only question I had was, do you know what the carryover was for the CIP of last year?
Yeah, it was $304,000 for an IT project for Dawn. I can't remember, I don't remember exactly what the project was, but it was something Dick had done in the previous budget.
And that was the only one?
Yes, that was the only one. It was just a big one, so.
Yeah. And then that's going to impact FY25?
It was money already
FY26,
allocated and not spent, so it's just, should have been moved over in A1, it got overlooked, and so we're just making it right in A2.
Okay.
Comments, questions? Comments, questions? No. Staff recommendation is that the governing body approve the FY24 A2 budget amendment as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Next up is agreement with Hydro Corp to manage city's cross connections program. Welcome back, Calvin.
I just did want to make one clarification. It is Manassas that's paying 88. Prince William and Manassas Park are paying 90.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay.
So Manassas is getting the discount for administering.
Oh, for administrators.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
here now to talk about backflow cross connection. We've had a backflow cross connection specialist position advertised for several years. We have only had 1 or 2 candidates that rose to the level of actually interviewing. One candidate we were very interested in, seemed very promising, wanted to work primarily remotely from West Virginia. We could not figure out a way that was going to work. But the goals of the backflow cross connection position were basically to update our ordinance, update our policies and procedures, get us update the list of businesses and structures that have special backflow devices, and then to perform backflow inspections. We have been approached by several companies, HydroCorp being one of them, that HydroCorp actually gave us a proposal that accomplished all of those goals, with slightly constrained inspection schedule, of course, because they're not here on a regular basis. But even in that, their inspection schedule is 320 inspections over a 5-year period if we continue to renew the contract. And staff was only ever able to come up with 248 locations that require inspection. So even under this contract, we would be inspecting every facility that needed to be inspected in that period. And with the cost of this program, that what HydroCorp is presenting to us, $1,470 in the first year, and then continued services after that for a total of $47,776 over 5 years. We're spending half in 5 years what it would take, even at the lowest advertised range for the position, what it would cost the city. So to get any kind of benefits, to get this program kickoff kind of started with a company like HydroCorp, who will help us update our ordinance, update our policies and procedures, put together a program plan, and start these inspections. That's exactly where we wanted to be. Not saying that we'll never hire a backflow cross-connection specialist, but right now we have incredible amount of savings from not hiring the position. The money is available, and this gives the program the boost we were looking for. And hopefully when we finally do find a cross-connection specialist to come work in the city, we'll be able to hand them a better, more updated plan to start work on. So staff's recommendation is that we enter into the agreement with HydroCorp so that we can start moving on these goals with our backflow cross-connection program. This is small procurement. Even over 5 years, it's only $47,000. And we did pursue other vendors for quotes, compared their offerings, and HydroCorp is the best offer we have.
Great, thank you. Comments, questions, starting with Councilmember Cyberlin?
No.
Yes.
Thank you, Calvin. So this year, we're asking the 1470. Is that because we're starting in 25, and there's only a few months left in the fiscal year?
There's very little time. And, the task, they will have to continue updating the ordinance and policies and procedures into the next fiscal year. So this is, if you look at the schedule that was in the agenda packet, it's small the first year, but then grows over the years as they get more and more presence in the city, also with the inspections.
And when are they expected to start?
It will depend on when we can get them an executed agreement, but they'll start work on the ordinance immediately, probably policies and procedures immediately, too.
Okay. The backflow position specialist that we have that not able to fill, has there been salary savings for that, or has that been wiped out and taken back?
Yeah, I maybe didn't say that clear enough, but there's huge savings in that.
What was that position budgeted at?
I believe the last time we advertised up to $80,000.
Okay.
So the salary range for the position, I believe, was 60 to 80 hiring range.
So for the next 5 years, we'll freeze that position?
I don't know. It's an enterprise fund position, and we do, whether we get our internal, crewmen to train in backflow and have the opportunity to sort of switch gears and say, instead of hiring a backflow prevention specialist, we're just going to have people on staff with backflow certification. I still do believe that ultimately the right goal for the city is to have a backflow prevention specialist on staff whose program it is to manage and maintain. But this will give us an opportunity to relook at that position and see what the workload is actually like in a city of our size. That's a question that has never been answered. The last time we had a dedicated backflow prevention specialist was in 2007, 2008. And they were new to the position, just starting to form the list of devices that need to be inspected, businesses that qualify for special inspection. So we don't really know if this is, if we're going to be able to completely shift gears and abandon this position and just do it with in-house staff that we already have, or if we'll have to continue to recommend a backflow prevention specialist. But that's something that this study, while we can't hire somebody, it'll let us learn about our own program and learn what it's going to take as far as staff hours. So.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I had the same question, just if this is an unbudgeted item, was the specialist position funded?
So yeah, this position has been funded in the enterprise fund budget for the past 3 years, I believe, and we have not filled it. So even in this year alone, if you look at salary plus benefits, total cost to the city, there's probably close to $100,000 in savings in this fiscal year. So.
Great, thank you. No questions, been answered.
All right. Staff recommendation is that the governing body approve and authorize the city manager to sign a 5-year agreement with HydroCorp LLC to provide cross-connection services to the City of Manassas Park in an amount not to exceed $47,776.30 over a 5-year period as presented and subject to final city attorney review.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Paving projects.
All right, so we've already started this conversation under another agenda item. But as far as FY25 paving was concerned, we started the fiscal year with $485,153 in the street improvements and resealing line. With the early on paving in the fiscal year, we were invoiced $335,985 from Branscombe for the work that they did. That work, to remind everyone, was on Manassas Drive between Carondelet and Arnie, all of Mathis Avenue within the city limits, Drake Court, and Cabell Drive. So we've been invoiced for that like we always do. We try to come back in the spring, see what the remainder was, and try to figure out what we can pave of the priority list. This year, we actually had a Fugro data update in between first half paving and second half paving, so it allowed us to see what the updated Fugro scores were and kind of reprioritize. We do have some streets that are scoring very poorly on Fugro that have some utility projects that need to be performed. So take Meeker, for example. Meeker scores really poorly, but we also have to replace the sewer that's offset in a couple different places there, already has a repair patch in it. We're currently pursuing quotes for that job. We hope that that job gets executed in this fiscal year and that we can immediately, resurface Meeker in the FY26 program. But we have a couple more street segments that are like that. They're on temporary hold till we get the utility updates in place. But based on the Fugro analysis, the updated Fugro analysis, and what monies we have left, our recommended street segments are Pierce Street, Mosby Drive, and Scott Drive south of Manassas. We did Scott Drive north of Manassas several years ago. But the total quote from Branscombe for these segments is $146,931.14. As normal, we are requesting a 10% contingency because all of this is based on weighed quantities and measured quantities. So we won't know until the job is actually finished what it's going to cost us. So that come with 10% contingency, that's $161,624. Of that, we should have $149,168 left in the street improvements and resealing line. And if we do tap into that contingency, we will be pulling $12,456 from the additional streets line.
All right. Comments, questions? Down here first? Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead, Kevin.
No, I'm good.
Yeah, just a quick one, Calvin. The PCI score, and I appreciate the chart that you have here in our report. What is considered an 8 or 9? Is that serious or failed or very poor? It doesn't show the PCI number associated with the chart here. I was just curious.
But the PCI chart is not in the agenda item?
No, it is, but it doesn't show which is an 8 or which is a 9. I don't quite.
So anything less than a 10, I thought.
So that's the
was
percentage,
considered-
that's how it does. So these are all failed then?
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's what
Which is, it's a bit odd. Fugro was harder on us this time around. We saw almost all of the really bad scores dropped very substantially from the last Fugro analysis to this analysis. It doesn't agree with the eye, but that's why we always say, we take the Fugro analysis as one tool, then we windshield survey. We go out and we make sure that we agree. Sometimes the Fugro scores will be skewed just by some recent utility patching, whereas the roadway may have been resurfaced 2-3 years ago and isn't in that bad a shape. So that's why the Fugro analysis is one piece of data that we use, and then we have to go out and lay eyes on it and see if we agree with it before it actually makes our paving priorities. But we did notice that there was a drop amongst the worst cases. There was a substantial drop in the last Fugro score to this Fugro score. We did not have anything scoring this low last time we had a Fugro analysis. So, and we've done a lot of paving since then.
And define a failed street for me. What would it look like?
Severe alligator cracking, pretty consistent to the point that you're getting potholing, where chunks of the alligator cracking are coming up and leading to potholing. Really bad seam separation, where you're actually, starting to see mud and dirt come up through seams or through the alligator cracking, indicating that the base itself is failing because of oversaturation. And I think what Fugro is looking at too is a combination of transverse and longitudinal cracking throughout the segment that's going to lead to further alligator cracking and complete deterioration of the segment. So I probably do not do justice to the complicated scoring mechanism that they use, but basically we know that once something starts alligator cracking and you start seeing the combination of transverse and longitudinal cracks, you need to address the segment because it's only going to get worse. You're going to start to lose base.
And these will be complete redos, or we're not talking about resurfacing, we're talking about...
This is resurfacing.
Just resurfacing.
The other reason that we always request contingency and that, we can't really bump right up against our budget with resurfacing is because when they mill out, they may find areas that they can't just put back. We may have to do some full depth work. Like on Scott Drive, we wound up spending an incredible amount of money on CTA, bringing in concrete treated aggregate to try to fix soft spots in the roadway. Rarely do we do projects where at least one area that we mill out, Branscombe doesn't stop and say, you got a problem here. And you can look at it, you mill out 2 to 3 inches, and then all of a sudden you're seeing nothing but dirt. That's a problem. You have to stop and fix it. That's going to be extra quantities of hauling and materials. They're going to have to over excavate, put down some base, maybe some CTA, and then finish the roadway in that segment. So the intent with all of this is mill and pave. Mill out 2 to 3 inches, put the surface back. But we're probably going to find in some of these places where we have to do some spot full depth repair.
Thank you, Calvin. Very thorough. Appreciate that.
Comments, questions?
No questions. Thank you. Thank you.
What's the time period between each of the data collection analysis from Fugro?
So this time around, I believe we went 2 years.
Okay.
But we would like to do it every year. It's just you have to wonder if we're gaining anything by that. But it's not as expensive as we originally thought it was going to be. So we're actually putting the money into our professional services budget for streets to try to do this on an annual basis. But we did have to think about that after we had the first analysis conducted. Is this really something that's worth it every year, or will these scores just be a good guideline for the next 2 to 3 years?
When was this one done, this last one?
Oh, this one was just conducted this fall, and we got the data early winter.
Okay, so the streets are probably worse after the storm and how hard they were with some of that snow.
They could be, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
All right, staff recommendation is that the governing body approve and authorize the city manager to sign a task order with Branscombe Paving Company for additional FY25 resurfacing for a total not to exceed $161,624.25 as presented and subject to final city attorney review.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thank you, Calvin.
Thank you.
B&B Development and Financing Agreement.
Good evening. This here is what's prepared, is kind of a belts and suspenders. It's an agreement between the EDA, the city, the parcel owner that's going to develop the theater project, but then also the parent company. Okay, and this requires a lot more detailed reporting by both the developer or the parcel owner and the parent company, just to basically protect the city's interest. There has been one change, though, that I just got back today on this. It's a very minor one, but it's on the, let's see, it's on the page 129 of your packet. It's under where it just talks about financial records and statements for the parent company, the parcel owner. They don't do audited financial statements. They're a family-owned organization, or family-owned company. So they do audits, but they have financial statements, but they're not audited financial statements. So that was something we had to just change. We had left that in there because I didn't understand why they didn't do that, but I got a clarification today that, their financial statement, you'll see that they also have to give some sort of a backup information if necessary for us. But other than that, it remains the same. There's still some blank spaces in there. Obviously, we have to record some documents at the closing of the bonds for this project. There's deed of trust that's got to be recorded, and some other documents we need dates on. So those blanks are the only things that still need to be worked out. But if you have any questions on this, I'll be happy to answer them. But basically, it's an agreement between all four parties. It just specifies what each is supposed to do, and it clarifies what the city expects from the B&B entities.
Thank you, Dean. We'll start with comments, questions down with Councilmember Cyberling.
No.
Nope.
I don't have any questions, thank you.
No question.
No questions.
Yeah, I got a question on this agreement. So during the construction time, what's the city's obligation to make, is there any payments that the city's making? And if the construction time goes beside,
When you say the city, what do you mean the city?
Or I guess-
There's financing that the
yeah,
city's providing.
the EDA, I guess.
So the city, right now, the plan is for the FY26 budget to include the line of credit that the city agreed to provide to the EDA, and that's a $6.3 million line of credit.
Right.
We don't anticipate that needing to be drawn on before that, because the bonds are going to be the main source of revenue for the project. Now, I got some clarification today that they're in the final stage of getting their development plans prepared. They still need to submit them to the city for review. They had previously wanted to get the bonds issued in April because they figured it was going to take 6 months for the city to review everything, and they wanted to be under construction in October so that they can open before what they call the blockbuster season starts I believe it's next year. In any case, we probably are not going to be able to do a bond issuance in April. It's probably going to be more like May. But my understanding, having spoken with the city manager, is that we should be able to expedite the review of the various plans, and provided that they have them in order and they don't need a lot of resubmissions, we should be able to kick that back and not have to issue the bonds until May, late May maybe. So in any case, the short answer is they probably won't be drawing on any additional funds other than perhaps the tenant improvement pot that we already have allowed them to draw down a little bit on to just cover the planning phase of this thing. So I don't know if that answered your question or not, but the city itself won't be paying money to them. The city will be providing essentially a loan to the EDA, and they'll provide the loan or giving the money to the EDA, and the EDA will then loan the money to the B&B entities.
Right. Well, I'm just saying that during the construction, my understanding was that there was going to be interest payments that would need to be obligated from the EDA to pay.
I can take that, Dean. So to answer your question, Councilmember Javad, so part of the bond proceed includes capitalized interest to account for the time that it's going to take them to build, and I believe we baked in about 2 years for construction. So the first bond note payment, when they break ground, they have about 14 months to build, and the interest payment it will just bill as part of the bond note. And then when the first bond note payment is due about a year and a half later, it includes the interest that's building during construction.
I see.
So there's no outlay from the city or the developer.
Until after the year and a half. Right. Okay, that makes sense then. The other question I had, Dean, I guess this might go back to you, is that there was a section, I don't know if you have the computer in front of you, 3.4 I highlighted. It said no obligation for the entity if there is no payments, if they stop getting payments from either the EDA or the line of credit. Can you explain what that means, that they could just walk away with, I guess, no consequence? Is that what, am I reading that right?
Well, yeah, we have a previous agreement with them, with a development agreement, and we're also gonna have, various other agreements that are gonna get recorded. This is just saying that, their entire obligations are predicated on the fact they're gonna have funding coming through the EDA bonds and/or the city's line of credit. If either of those materialize, they don't have the funds to do it. So they're not gonna be obligated to, go out and get another loan, say, at a higher interest rate just to make this happen.
Right, so say they go construct it 3-year, 4, 5, and the EDA is making the annual payments, whatever, the 300K, say that ceased to stop for whatever reason. So then what happens to the theater, the company?
I'm sorry, what's gonna cease for some reason? I'm not
Say
sure.
the annual payments that the EDA is paying, I guess the 300K.
Oh, so the city is obligated to appropriate the funds to give it to the EDA. Okay, so it's kind of a little bit of a movement of funds, but essentially the EDA is borrowing this money, the city's giving its backing. The city has agreed to supplement certain payments with the admissions tax, and if the admissions tax is not enough, then to supplement it from other sources. So the funding has to be there, but this piece here says that if either the bonds aren't issued, okay, so that would be here in another month or two, the bonds aren't issued, or down the road, the governing body doesn't appropriate the funds. I mean, that's really what would happen, because if the governing body doesn't appropriate the funds to give to the EDA, that's going to cause just a domino effect. And that's what they're saying, is that for some reason, the city's governing body doesn't appropriate the funds, they're not going to continue on, they're not going to be obligated any further. Now, practically speaking, as you said, 3 or 4 years down the road, the project will have been built. And if the city defaults, the bondholders are going to come and take it over, and they're going to just get the payments directly from the B&B entity. So the city's credit will be shot, but the project itself would still survive, assuming that they were making payments, that they were making their payments, and it was just a matter of the city just took that funds and used it somewhere else and didn't appropriate it for this purpose. I don't know if that makes any sense, but the chance of that happening here is just so slim, because you have a revenue source that's going to be coming from B&B that just needs to be taken in and then appropriated to give to the EDA. It's just an additional step that's required because of the way that the bonds are being issued. Now, had B&B been the ones to borrow the money and use their credit, we wouldn't be having this discussion. But the city's using its bond rating as a moral backer of these bonds. It's not a legal obligation, it's a moral obligation,
right,
which means the city can't walk away. This is just helping them to get a little bit more of a comfort factor, knowing that if the city does walk away, then their obligations are no longer in effect. So we're all kind of trusting each other on this thing, but this agreement here kind of puts it in writing.
Okay, I guess that answered my question.
I mean, I can elaborate more if you want.
No, I mean, that's
I'm not
fine.
really sure.
It was just the future, the unknown, that's what is bothering me, that, budget to budget, year by year, it's, right, but it's just, the city might get tighter and tighter year over year with the budget. And the question arises is, can we appropriate 300,000 year over year? And if we don't appropriate that to the EDA, then what happens? Can the theater survive if the revenue of the first 5 years is not up to their standard? Can they survive without the 300,000? So I mean, it was just a concern that I can't see what's going to happen in the future, and banking the future of this movie theater on the 300 appropriation is not a guarantee. So that was my only concern.
Well, I will just point out that 300,000 slowly goes away. I mean, it's
Right.
reduced
Yeah, I
every
remember
year
that.
until it's gone. So around year, 7, 8, 9, 10, somewhere around there, the city no longer has that obligation. And if the movie theater is not doing well, we're going to have some other issues we're going to be dealing with at the time. But the point of this is that by year 10, the city no longer has a $300,000 delta obligation. the movie theater is going to be paying the city, or paying the EDA that money, that repayment money, and then it just needs to go directly over. So if the city's not appropriating at that point, I don't really know what we'd be appropriating, because other than, you know, the admissions tax that needs to go towards the repayment of the $6.3 million line of credit, that might be something. Again, that would just be a pass-through. So it'd be revenue coming in and going out, and the city wouldn't really miss it, because that's the whole purpose of it. After the city no longer has to use the admissions tax money to supplement, and the $6.3 million is paid off, then the city has that as a regular revenue source. You can do it what you want.
Well, I mean, if you're comfortable with that section 3.4 that, you know, protects the city and whatever verbiage you need to put in there, if you're comfortable with that, then I'm fine.
Well, I don't know whether I'm comfortable with it necessarily. It just is the facts. That's what was explained to the governing body when this project was first put forward. You know, what needed to happen, and everyone agreed that was what needed to happen, and this is the result of all those discussions.
Okay, understood. Thank you. Mm-hmm.
You're welcome.
All right, the motion is that the governing body approve and authorize the city manager to sign a development and financing agreement with the city's Economic Development Authority, Manassas Park Cinema LLC, and B&B Theaters Operating Company, Inc., for the financing, development, construction, equipping, and operation of an entertainment anchor in city center that includes a movie theater complex as presented and subject to final city attorney review.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. City assessors.
See. It's on the screen, but, oh, okay.
You just need to make it presentation a little while. And to go forward, P to go back.
All right. Good evening, Mayor Mensing, Vice Mayor Moore, members of the governing body. Those who don't know, my name's Darius Gould. I'm the city assessor for Manassas Park. And tonight I'm here to request approval to contract with C3AI for their residential property appraisal application. Just want to note that, Trevor McLaughlin with C3AI is here tonight as well. It's been definitely a pleasure to work with, and has found many solutions and overcoming obstacles to make this more feasible for us. So tonight I just want to briefly highlight, some of the challenges we've been having with our current tool, and why I feel like C3AI will largely address all those issues and, be a great tool for the city and for my office as well. So, here. Okay, the goal for our assessment office, is always accurate and equitable assessments. So the first tool we tried here for these last two cycles is value-based. Even when we contracted with value-based, we were interested in C3AI, but at the time it didn't seem financially feasible for us, and value-based was the more affordable option, so we started out with them. Value-based, they're kind of a machine learning driven, create automated valuation models. So they also use AI. Their methodology is somewhat different than how C3AI does it. So they has been a help in some ways just to improve the overall values for the city, but there have been some challenges with it as well. One I note is the kind of manual process. Theirs is an actual software application. They kind of give us all the values. They pretty much send them all of our information. They kind of run it through their system, and then they send it to us in Excel. So there's kind of more work for us to do to kind of sort it by neighborhood, by property type, by different characteristics, by size, and
to review all the values that they send us. Typically still have to, we don't just accept them as is, so we'll make adjustments to those and kind of have to add formulas to the spreadsheet to make sure things are in line. So it's one challenge. I guess in that too, there's always room for error. If you throw off a formula here or there or what have you. There's also a lack of data integration with CAMA. So I guess once we do all that, finalize the values, we have to kind of put it in a format that we can import back into our CAMA system. One major challenge has been, we have a property or a group of properties where we've updated the property characteristics, say there was an addition or, we had incorrect square footage or something on the house and we update that. If they already sent us some values, there's no way for us to, kind of recalculate values on those properties. And right now, the only way they have for us to, refresh values on those properties is we basically have to start from scratch, send them all our data, then they give us new values, just to update those, one or group of properties. And then also in that, we had an issue where it changed values on other properties that we didn't want to touch. So it's kind of, makes it more of a challenge there. Also, there's lack of transparency. There isn't a way to see kind of how those values are developed and what components kind of it went into creating that value. And then also there's some limited uses with using value-based where we can really only use it for the reassessment. They also give us one other kind of visualizer tool where we can kind of just see the values on the map, but there aren't a lot of uses outside of for reassessment. So C3AI is a more comprehensive solution, addresses all these challenges that we currently have with value-based. Just to briefly highlight kind of what C3AI's property appraisal application says. It's like alliteration there. I always stumble over putting those together. Well, their application produces accurate and equitable market value through enhanced AI modeling. There's a workflow that allows us to either accept the AI value if we're fine with it, or to adjust the value, so we can always kind of go through and review, accept. And I guess one interesting tool too with that is, whatever values we adjust, it learns from the changes that we make, so that the next time around it takes that into account. It provides evidence packages for each property to kind of shows how those values were derived. It also provides other useful tools, like some market data dashboards that kind of track what's going on. There's MLS sales are kind of built into the application, so we don't have to go to MLS to search for sales. There's a data cleaning tool where basically it's looking at what we have in our camera system and what's the MLS, and then it'll alert us if there's differences, so we can review those as well. And there's other tools built in with that as well also. And just to discuss, last summer we were able to do a pilot with them. It was one day Trevor gave me a call and was like, "Hey, I got this opportunity for you," and they were offering a special for a short period of time that we could do a pilot with them for just for $1 for the city. With I guess Google was funding the majority of it. So otherwise, it would have cost us over $100,000 for that. So that was one obstacle we had initially that we were able to cross that hurdle thanks to that opportunity that came up. So with the pilot, these just highlight some of the results from that pilot. Regarding appraisal uniformity, from what we had originally to what was shown in the pilot, there was a 17% improvement based on the coefficient of dispersion. And then also for appraisal accuracy, there was a 32% improvement in that metric just based on the AI value being plus or minus 5% of the actual sales price. So just to go over some of the benefits of C3AI, excuse me. I guess one will be increased efficiency in our annual reassessments, better transparency, equity, and accuracy for real estate assessments. That's kind of shown in that pilot that we did with them.
There'll be year-round functionality for us. We'll, use probably the main example of that will just be for sales verification. We kind of run it, do it in their system, so they'll identify, wherever things are different. We can kind of always process those. And there's also some, I guess, neat tools in there too, where they'll give us some condition ratings just based on the photos that we'll be able to utilize in other tools within there. Also, the direct integration with the camera software for bi-directional data updates. So whatever changes we may do in the C3 AI, it'll push that information to the camera system, and vice versa. If we update the sketch and square footage in the camera system, it'll be reflected in C3 AI, and we can kind of recalculate the values right inside there. And lastly here, just the ability to utilize future enhancements. One thing I learned just last month, that just even since we did our pilot last year, that they've already made some updates to the application, and they were sharing with me some of the things that they have coming down the pike, that would be useful, very useful for us. All right, let me just briefly go over the cost proposal. The C3 AI is offering us a 5-year contract for $36,000 a year. Currently, value base is just under $10,000 a year. With we have 2 remaining extensions at that price. So roughly, there's $26,000 difference between the two. And I just listed some of what's included with the C3 AI's contract. And then regarding return on investment, one will be the improved tax collection. I guess in the pilot that we did with C3 AI, the total property value for the residential property was roughly 4% higher than we had originally. So conservatively, we project a 1% increase in tax collection. And so based on the fiscal year 25 values, this would result in roughly $225,000 in additional revenue. And if you take into account the difference in contracts for C3I and value base, that will still be a net of like $200,000 in additional revenue, kind of as a baseline. And then also regarding staff efficiency, our office is small, just 2 of us for office. And just compared to a similar sized city with Falls Church, they have 3. So I guess whenever we can utilize technology to create some efficiencies, that definitely helps us out. And just to note a few things it will help us with, again, is we'll streamline our process for annual reassessments, help us identifying data discrepancies, and also allow for additional time to make continued improvements. I have kind of other projects in mind, but wanting to get to, and I think this will help be able to get to those sooner. So just to wrap up, again, I feel like the property appraisal application with C3I will, address some of the challenges that we've been having, improve our office overall, and that the return on investment shows that it will, essentially pay for itself and, create efficiencies for our office. So, thank you for time to share this with you all. And if you have any questions, I'm here. Trevor's here. If you need any clarification on anything. Thanks.
Thank you, Darius. Any questions? Start down here.
Yeah, I guess what made the deciding factor going for this software compared to others in the market?
Well, there's really, I guess, ones that are, kind of utilize AI. There's only kind of value-based and C3 AI right now. They're the only ones right now that have a, a full-blown application. I guess there's others I think that are thinking about it or working on ideas, but they haven't gotten up to that point yet. And even from the beginning, I was interested. I wanted C3I at first, but the costs were beyond it seemed what we were able to afford. So that's why we went value-based first. But I guess working with them, being able to do the pilot, it's kind of basically covered the implementation costs for us, and then them being eager to work with us, they've kind of reduced the price to be able to make it possible for us. So That's, and it just pretty much is much more comprehensive than what Value-Based offers, the tools that they have, so.
So what's is it OpenAI? Like how does, I guess you would put in the information and it would generate the assessment based off of what you're providing?
Yeah, I guess I guess probably Trevor could probably talk more detail with that, but I guess taking into account all the, sales that occurred in the city, he also was looking at uses like GIS and like proximity to certain landmarks. I guess it's looking at all the property characteristics and seeing like which factors seem to be influencing value the most, and some of those details. I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that.
Thank you. So effectively, he hit the nail on the head with that. So the application aggregates disparate data sources, specifically 3 primary sources. The CAMA, which is his source of truth for the city, which contains all the property characteristics. Also contains GIS information, so geospatial referencing to points of interest, key points of interest, bringing in that location component, as well as all of the MLS data. So you've got all of the MLS, effectively the sales price, what they were sold for, but also the language and things that go into that there were features and characteristics of the property that were being sold. All those things come together in a very robust machine learning model. And then it's over the course of really that relationship during the pilot deployment, where we were able to have iterative process on that machine learning to help tweak and tune to get those results that you had seen that he had shared.
Okay. No questions for now.
All right, so since we're talking AI, okay, don't sit down. I work for IBM, so.
We love it.
So describe a little bit more about the technology. So it's a generative AI tool, so it's going to get retrained, or is it kind of a static machine learning model?
So there's lots of AI that fall under that umbrella.
Yeah.
Generative AI is one type of AI that can be used, but is not used to generate the models for this purpose. We use basically a decision tree, complex multiple regression analysis modeling approach, which is complex and can really only be done, as you can imagine, with machine learning and under the artificial intelligence umbrella. Generative AI is a different category of artificial intelligence.
Sure, so we're talking about machine learning with this specific tool set.
Correct, yeah.
And then do you guys take the output from the study here in the park and look at other jurisdictions to kind of corroborate the output of the recommendations that the model's making?
So the data...
Or in other words, how do you assess... well, first of all, let me take a step back. So the data here, appraisal uniformity and appraisal accuracy, can you give us a little bit more background about what those statistics mean?
Yeah. Do you want to define those for them?
Because I admit I'm a novice in the world of appraisal accuracy.
For well, I guess accuracy. I guess I know that. I guess the AI predictive value being within. I guess in that measurement was between 5% plus or minus the actual sales price. So that's the accuracy component. I guess being kind of grouped around actual market value, and then the. As far as, so I was saying, equitable, what was that? Uniformity, that's where I'm looking for. I guess just kind of kind of grouped around, I guess how you put it, around a median. I guess they use the coefficient of dispersion was the measurement, but I guess it's kind of how far, I guess the values are kind of aligned together. I guess really for like similar property types.
So you look at like, let's say all 3-bedroom townhomes, certain square footage and a certain proximity, and you're saying, okay, this is the distribution, here's some that are above and below the mean, and then we want to bring them more in line.
Exactly. So the metrics that were defined, PRD, these are standard metrics which are really defined and upheld by the the IAAO, which is International Association of Assessing Officers, an international body that really sets the foundation for what makes fair and equitable and uniform assessments across the world. The COD and the PRD are in the accuracy are three primary metrics that we look at in order to make sure that we are bringing at least as good of results, if not better, than what the standard practices are. Sure. COD, the dispersion, if you think about what you're just defining, here's a sale price of a house. All the homes that look and feel and kind of smell like that flavor of house should be pretty tightly grouped in terms of pricing. Some models or approaches, if it's left to human bias or other methods, could create a lot of dispersion in pricing.
Sure.
And the PRD is a measure of how far above or below that median or middle point is, right? So you want to have very tight values. And in the approach that we've taken with the artificial intelligence and machine learning, by creating more accurate values and reducing the dispersion, getting closer to that true fair market value, which is what we're pursuing, we've actually been able to improve the overall results for the city.
Here it says an increase of 1% in tax collection would yield $225K in additional revenue annually, conservatively projecting. How did you guys come up with that 1% estimate?
I guess their total value was 4% higher. I guess it's also kind of an unadjusted number, so I'm looking at it as, once we review it, it could, change slightly here and there. So say conservatively, at least be a 1% increase in total assessment value, which, in turn, 1% increase in revenue, but, it could be higher than that.
Okay.
Overall.
I mean, I guess what I'm trying to drive with these questions is I could imagine a scenario where we adopt a tool, maybe arguably a better tool statistically. And what we do in that model is say, okay, we have these homes that were under assessed, and now we're going to correct the assessment. And the city is going to bring in more revenue, but there's going to be a proportion of homeowners who see their assessment go up disproportionately. And they're going to say, why did this happen? Because we were, so how do you guys think about the answer to that? Or
well, I guess that we have that now already. I guess in just the last 2 years, trying to bring the, kind of values more, closely aligned with each other, even with just using value base. There were, some homes that were, over assessed, and then, but probably more that were under assessed, or cases where you might have basically the same house, but there were 50,000 difference in price. It might have been the same Cape Cod. So just kind of trying to bring those together. Unfortunately, I don't know another way to kind of bring them in line without some, having a big jump to be more in line with market value. So that's,
So that's actually an effort to make a fair, equitable, uniform approach to modeling and value assessment. The application actually takes into consideration deviations and jumps from previous years or baselines. So the application is bringing up insights through the artificial intelligence and showcasing those to the assessor through the application workflow. In the case of what you're referencing here is deviations between last year and the current year based on a model value that was proposed. Mm-hmm. Those deviations are highlighted in the application and then brought to the assessor's attention so that they can give more attention to those versus the ones that are lending less deviation from years past or some baseline that's determined.
So in theory, the assessor's office could use their discretion to deviate, make small incremental jumps over time to bring things in line if there are folks that have been underassessed.
Yes, the application absolutely provides that capability and functionality within the application. So it's the human-in-the-loop approach to artificial intelligence where there's full disclosure with the evidence package of how the values were determined, showcasing the contributing positive and negative factors for that valuation, and then showcasing that for the appraiser such that the appraiser team has both the visibility of those values, the deviation from last year and can make a judgment call with all the data in front of them, whether or not to accept that value, make adjustments, accept, or choose whatever really value they want to go with.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Vice Mayor?
Yeah, thank you, Darius. I had some similar concerns that Kevin raised, not necessarily with the technicality that Kevin has. I mean, he works for IBM, and I'm just a lowly retired government official. So the higher assessments that's predicted, the 4%, I think that's going to be a shockwave in our city when it comes out that they're assessed values, because people already think that they're assessed values. We hear it every year when the city governing body reduces the property tax, and we have for the last 4 years. But their assessed value has gone up, and so they don't see the difference. And now we're going to say it's going to go up even more for 4% of the residents. I just hope that the city will market this new software and let the citizens know in advance that, it's coming, and that, we may expect some fluctuations in the assessment because of we're collecting better data and things of that nature. The 1% tax collection, increase in tax collection, I don't see how that works. Again, and I know Kevin probed that. How does this software increase a family's ability or willingness to pay their taxes?
I mean, you said they're
Because it says an increase, a 1% increase in tax collection. And I'm just wondering how that's going to happen.
I guess I guess taxable revenue. I guess you can look at it that way. I'm not sure if I fully understand.
May I try to re-clarify?
Sure.
I think, if I'm making an assumption, that if we assess, if using the new tool, if the assessment is done properly, that some percentage of properties will be reassessed at higher values,
We'll get more.
and we'll get that 1% number.
Okay.
But that means without us changing the property tax rate that people pay, some folks will be paying more. To your point, some people might be paying less, but on balance, it'll be more people paying more.
So it's
I
not a
think.
tax collection in that sense. It's
Correct.
It's a net increase to our revenue based. Okay, that's fine. I get it then. When will this start? If we buy the software, and we probably will tonight, when will you start assessing using this tool?
It'll be
the CA
for, I guess, next year's assessment. We're just pretty much just finished wrapping up for this year. Actually, it's supposed to be scheduled to mail out on Friday. So we'll be trying to utilize it for next year's assessment.
Okay, fantastic. So it does give us some time to warn or inform, educate our residents. The other question I had was, this line item was originally budgeted at 10,000. We're going up to additional 26,000. Where are we finding that? It wasn't clear to me in the information that's provided here. The needing of an additional 16,000.
I think, I don't have that in front of me.
But really, it'd be an additional 26,000, I believe. If it's budgeted 10 and we're going to go to 36 a year
Right.
for 5 years.
Right. I'm not sure. I don't have that in front of me. Carl, do you recall what the
I don't
account
remember either.
was that? I'm sorry.
I don't remember either.
Okay. I don't have
But
that.
we can find out.
In front of me, yeah.
But rest assured, we ran it by Tony first to make sure we don't do anything wrong, so.
It's included in the 26 budget.
The 36?
The proposed budget.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, so with the budget we'll talk about next week, it's included in that.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
That's great. Thank you, Tony.
Okay.
Okay, was there another question? I guess I'm good. Oh, yeah, I'm fine. Thank you, Derek.
Okay.
Yes, I have a question. Thank you for the presentation. So it's a web-based flow client machine. On your GIS, how often do you update your GIS shapefile? The GIS shapefile?
I mean, I guess as far as us getting
The
over to
technical
them.
piece, the
Yeah,
one that's
so-
released, it's usually released like quarterly by USGC. So the GIS file, the layering, how often do you update that?
So the application can do it as many times as appropriate.
Do you have a
based on the
schedule to
frequency.
update the GIS?
It's all scheduled, and then those updates are based on what we've set with the city. So I don't know what we have off the top of my head, whether it's semi-annually, quarterly. but the maps usually get updated less frequently than,
You try to do it once a year,
It-
probably.
it's
just in
what's
case.
appropriate.
Okay.
Yeah,
The other question I have, do you have any other localities in the state using the system? In the Commonwealth, Virginia? Is there anybody else, is there any other customers that use the system?
Not
In-
in Virginia, no. No, we would be the first in Virginia, but there are, customers in other states around the country.
All right, thank you.
I think some of my questions have been asked. Thank you for the presentation, but, so here's some questions. With the pilot, where did we see the greatest difference? Did we see certain areas of the city that were impacted the most? Residential, commercial, where did we see the greatest difference?
Well, this application was for residential only.
Okay.
As far as, I don't recall if it was like, more single family, or, which type of property, but it was just for residential only.
Okay, so there wasn't a particular area, neighborhood, that we saw the greatest difference with the pilot? Who's going to be impacted the most, as far as areas?
That I don't recall. We looked at that specifically, kind of what neighborhoods were,
Yeah, I just
had
wanted
the
to-
highest increase. Yeah.
I also wanted to see if it was it was just certain types of homes that were impacted where they're going to get hit the hardest, and others might see more of a decrease.
Mm-hmm.
Was there any kind of trends that were seen during the pilot?
That I can't speak on. I guess it's been some months since
yeah.
we did
So
the
that was
pilot.
last summer. That was not something that we specifically looked at. However, there's full capability inside the application in terms of getting the geospatial reflection of the results relative to neighborhoods, transit areas, any sort of subdividing of the city, however Darius has that set up in the application. Really at a very, click of a button glance, you can review all of those statistics. So as we go into subsequent years of reassessment, all of those questions can be answered really quite easily.
Yeah, because I would like to know if it was like mostly the 3 bedrooms, the 4 bedrooms, the 1, where did we see and who's going to get hit? The other one was, I guess this was already asked or alluded to, that we did not use the pilot values for our last assessment.
Correct.
So that was not used.
Mhm.
And then the other jurisdictions. So have you run this application against surrounding jurisdictions here to kind of do a comparison to see if you also found the same kind of increase as well? Like if you've run it against Prince William County data, just to see if you got similar results as far as increase.
So we ran it against the Falls Church, and we found similar improvements there as well.
Okay, so then we will be valuing ours more accurately, which will be higher than our surrounding jurisdictions.
You mean higher as far as values or median value?
Yes, they'll be more accurate, but they will be higher than our surrounding jurisdictions.
So to that end, I don't want to say yes or no. It's all based on the data, and it was trained only on Manassas Park data. So City of Falls Church data was not incorporated, nor was Prince William County, nor was Loudoun County, nor was Manassas inside the data set that trained these models.
So the only data set it's comparing itself to is itself? Who are we being compared to within the data sets?
You're not being compared against anybody.
So
It's an internal standard, is your previous results against the C3 AI models.
Go ahead.
One more question.
Okay.
Oh, you need to. Go ahead, no, you.
Yeah, I got a question I have to ask. Every time we outsource to a third party, the sensitive data that you guys collect, what's the privacy or security measures you guys take protecting that sensitive data?
So we're actually not collecting any PII or sensitive information. It's mostly, it is publicly available information.
Okay.
So that should alleviate, but we have the utmost highest standards for security and safeguard of information. It's held in a City of Manassas Park offset account, basically. So information is not shared out or brought in. So as I was mentioning with the data model training, no outside information was used to train the Manassas Park models, and Manassas Park model data would not be used or send anywhere else. That's a standard practice for C3AI.
Thank you.
I just wanted clarification. This contract is a sole source contract. The report talks about a small purchase procedure, and I wasn't sure what that meant in relations to a sole source. It sounds to me like a sole source. You guys are the only one doing it, and we just chose you because you're the only one doing it. So am I right? Is that my understanding? This is sole source?
I would ask Mark to answer that.
Okay.
Mark Lozier, General Services Administrator. It's not sole source.
Okay.
There are only 2 competitors, and so based upon the evaluation and the needs of the city, he's recommending one of the 2 options. So he's moving from one to the other. Sole source is you have to declare it's the only possible tool that can be used. That's not a sole source because you could stay with value base if you want to and pay $10,000. He thinks the tool is much better and it brings back the return on investment. So you're not declaring a sole source because sole source criteria is not met in this case. So small purchases, we must provide competition, and the competition is getting the price from, value base and getting the price from C3I, but factoring in everything that was necessary and that will increase the return on investment from the more expensive options. So it falls under the $200,000 small procurement procedures of the city, which requires competition. Well, it was a competition amongst 2
So
peers.
Value Base submitted a proposal?
We didn't, I don't know if you asked them for a proposal. That was.
So there was no RFP done at all?
No RFP was done.
Why not?
I wasn't asked to do an RFP. It was a pilot project, and I was brought in after the pilot project. If you wanted to do an RFP, we could do an RFP, but, that's.
It seems to walk like a duck and talk like a duck. It sounds like a sole source contract to me.
It's not legally a sole source. They're recommending to you to purchase this, and it's under the $200,000 threshold.
But the competition wasn't there because the other vendor didn't have an opportunity to respond.
We weren't asked to source it
Asked by who?
by city management or anyone else.
Are we writing another contract in order to procure it? What are
It
we-
was a pilot project done last summer.
Yeah, I can understand why CA13 would want to be here. I mean, they have no work in Virginia, the state of Virginia. They're in California and other places. I can understand why they'd want to have their product done here as an example to the Commonwealth. But I don't see the competition because we're comparing apples and oranges. But again, I mean, it sounds like it's a great product, and I plan to support it.
Can I just say one thing? I don't know who asked the question, but there was a question as to why an RFP wasn't issued for this.
That was my question.
And small procurement is specifically set up so you don't have to issue an RFP. What you do is you contact them and say this is what we want. It's designed to be much more streamlined so that the heavy lifting by staff is not necessary. So I just want to clarify that.
But Dean, did we ask the other competition for that information?
I don't know. I wasn't involved in it. I was just clarifying that why an RFP wouldn't be used for this small procurement. I don't know
Mr. Attorney, what I do is just, it's usually common practice, even if it's over $10,000 RFP for competition and technology, because you write a contract. That's usually what I've seen done. That's the reason, and I'm generally supportive of it. I understand you identified you're an expert and stakeholder on this piece, but I would have liked to see an RFP, but I'm generally supportive. Thank you.
Okay. I'll just add one last thing and then we're going to vote and be done with this. I would just ask that it sounds like we're going to approve this. If you could come back sometime between now and next year to speak with the public about how the assessments are changing, what to expect, how much, where, just kind of give a warning presentation. Okay.
That's fine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the staff recommendation is that the governing body approve and authorize the city manager to sign a small purchase agreement with C3AI for a property appraisal application in an amount not to exceed $36,000 annually for 5 years, as presented and subject to final review by the city attorney.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have arrived at our second public comment time. Is there anyone who would like to make public comment? Okay. City manager report.
Thank you. I already made note of the marketing communication plan that will be required for this, so good idea, and absolutely, we'll take care of that. Yep. First thing I want to talk about is the semi-annual drug take-back is taking place April 26th from 10 p.m. to 2 p.m. at the police department. I know we'll have another meeting between now and then, but we have a 24/7 option, but it is always good to take an opportunity to remind people when the DEA does their national event to dispose of their prescription medications in the proper way and not put it in the surface water, stormwater, sorry. The other thing I want to mention that it is National Child Abuse Awareness Month, so if you drove in today and noticed the pinwheel garden in the southeast corner of the lot, that was what that was for. The social services folks came down and planted that earlier last week, and so that's what that's there for, is to draw attention to the fact that it's National Child Abuse Awareness Week. Audit update, Dean touched on this a little earlier, but we've been given, we've been told by our auditors that they will have our audit numbers, hopefully we'll have preliminary numbers to us in the beginning of May. And as he mentioned, we have been in conversation with B&B to talk about anything we can do to resequence their project to make sure we stay on track. That coupled with the fact that it probably is not the best environment right now to go out to sell bonds. It's feels like everything's not as going as planned. It's going fine. So fingers crossed we get those numbers in early May and we can put this one behind us too. So. Last thing is the RFP for the legal services. So like I mentioned in my email, I don't expect you guys to be done with this yet. That's a lot of reading and writing and absorbing and digesting. So I would like to talk a little bit about now that you've seen it and you've had a chance to sort of weigh it out, are you at a point today where you can put a couple of dates on the calendar for a closed session to do in-person interviews, or are we too early for that? The second question is, we've created a list of questions for them, for the in-person interviews, which you're not bound to in any way, but we're going to provide that to you as well if you're interested, just to give you an idea of what to ask. And then the last thing is that you did have a score sheet for the in-person interviews included in your packets. That was just an idea. You're not bound by that either, and you don't all have to do it the same way. You can use whatever internal process you want to rate the firms that you interview in person. So most important for us right now is we'd like to get a date on the calendar for the in-person interviews. We were thinking probably to allow about an hour for each firm. So if you pass all 4 through interviews, we'd probably have to do that in 2 different days. If you don't, then we can figure out, how long you want to, interview whoever ones you do pass through. So do you have any ideas?
Could you perhaps send an email to us with 5 dates?
Sure, absolutely.
And then we can select from them some sort of doodle poll or whatever Kelly used brilliantly last time. That way we can kind of just do that offline.
Sure, that's great.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
And we can get that information back for dates rather quickly, hopefully, everyone.
And also, as you finish your scoring, please get that back to us too, because if all of a sudden they'll appear tomorrow, then that'll change the dates we send out, as options, so.
I know when I sent mine back, I wrote the firms that I wanted to interview. Would that be helpful if everyone kind of indicated that as well?
Well, you're going to be getting another matrix back with the combined scoring of the group. So, assuming all the other 6 rated the same way you did, then sure, but we have to aggregate the scores before we can have you assess that, so.
Okay.
Are we interviewing all of them?
Oh, we could. Sure, we could. for sure.
Sometimes when you're doing scoring, there's a natural break, you get a whole bunch of people between 80 and 90 and one person at 40.
Yeah.
And I'm not suggesting at all that that's the case here, but if that was the case, it came out that way, then I don't know why you'd want to spend time doing the interviews with people that came in so low.
So would next Friday, the 25th, be too late to turn in a review of the written RFPs?
I'm not going to put a clock on you.
Oh, okay,
That's,
just anytime.
it's, I would like it to be as expeditious as possible, but, I don't know your lives and what challenges you have, so,
Yeah.
so we just want to know.
I don't have it in front of me, but I think for the total, getting this on board before Dean leaves, that would be too late, yes, the 25th.
Because there's a holiday coming up this weekend, and a lot of people are traveling out of town. I know I am. You are too?
I'm in Vegas and Arizona
Yeah.
this week.
So the 25th seems reasonable to me.
To have-
get written, read the 4 packets and things like that.
Yeah, like I said, I'm not going to put a clock on you. So we're going to process it as you get done.
Dean is leaving the 1st of June?
July.
Mid-June.
July. So we have all of May to interview.
Well, I think
We
Dean's
can
taken
select
some
somebody before
terminal
July.
leave. Dean, I think if you're still there, Dean, I think he's taking some time off or burning some excess vacation.
Did we
so.
approve that?
Right, he wanted
I
to,
won't be taking permanent leave. I'll be here up until the first week of July, but I would like to have some turnover. I'd urge you to try to do it sooner rather than later.
right, so we had interviewing the RFPs by the 29th, because then we have to enter into negotiations, we have to award it, and then Dean would like turnover. So this was sent to us last week. We had last weekend to look at this, we had yesterday to look at this. We have this week, this weekend,
I'll be gone this weekend.
so,
Maybe the 20, you said any date. You said just whenever we get them in, right?
Yeah, you guys can decide amongst yourselves if you want to set a date, but I'm not going to set a date for you.
Right.
for purpose of having firms in to interview, I do think that it needs to be sooner than the 25th, especially if our last interview date was the 29th, according to our original calendar here.
Getting the scores in should be earlier than the 25th, I agree. I mean, that, you can be on vacation and still get your scores in.
It took me 2 hours of sitting down and I read them 3 times.
Okay.
We try and do interviews before May.
No, I'm not talking about the interviews, I'm
Oh.
talking about the email that we got last week.
Yeah, I know that, but I'm saying when, if we even get it by the 25th, we could do a first round of interviews first week of May.
That's putting us behind schedule for the turnover and the awarding and having Dean offload.
So then it goes back to my next question, you want to do interviews before May? Is that the intention?
The last week of April, you
We had it the last week of April here.
So you want to do on the 29th, the interviews?
It's possible, since that date is already set for us. I don't know what's on the agenda yet for that date, other than a budget work session.
Yeah, we have
I thought we would do this on a separate date, the interviews, separate from one of our meetings.
We could do that as well.
Because if it's an hour each, and if we do 2, that's 2 hours right there. I mean, I can't do it this week because I'm in Vegas. And if I do it
No,
there.
we're not gonna do it this week.
It has to
We
stay
also
there.
need to give the firms a heads up. One of them even said in their RFP
Right.
that they need a heads up for a date. So if we're interviewing them, we need to be giving them
Right,
notice.
Right, it's some notice, yeah.
Do we have anything on the 6th of May?
Yeah, we have a meeting, we have presentations, we have public hearing
Oh,
for
we have
the
a regular
school
meeting on the
board,
6th?
voting on the tax rate. Yeah. So in the meantime, read your email, read the RFPs, and try to get them in by the end of the week. So that, and send the doodle poll, please, and we will have the interviews arranged.
Yeah, we'll send a lot of options on the doodle poll, just to make sure we get as much as we can out of it, but,
That'd be great.
yeah.
Thank you. Do you have anything else for manager?
I do not. Thank you.
All right. Closed meeting. Dean, could you read us into closed meeting, please?
I recommend the governing body going to closed meeting to discuss a prospective business or industry where no previous announcement has been made of the businesses or industries interested in locating in the city pursuant to paragraph 5 of subsection 2.2-371A of the Code of Virginia.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. We are in closed session. We'll meet in the room over there at 5 minutes, 9:39. Thank you. That one.
Dean, do you need to dial in?